So I'm going to compare and contrast the different ways that we have solved quadratic equations. So this first one, we have x squared minus x minus 6 equals 0. And we solved this for x by finding the factors for it. So remember we did parentheses, parentheses, x times x. The minus on the constant means that we have a plus and a minus in our factors. And then we need factors of 6 that subtract to give you a negative 1. That would be negative 3 and the positive 2. Then we took each factor and set them equal to 0. So x minus 3 equals 0, or x plus 2 equals 0, and then you solve for x. So we get x equals positive 3 and x equals negative 2. Keep in mind these solutions are zeros of the function. This is where the graph will cross the x-axis on that parabola. So another way that we did was the quadratic formula. We just recently learned the quadratic formula. We have y equals x squared plus 2x minus 3, and this is where we chose a, b, and c. Once it was set equal to 0, which this one is, we decided our a factor, this a is equal to 1. The b value here is equal to 2, and the c value is equal to negative 3. But first of all, we found the discriminant first. We did this 2 squared, the b squared minus 4 times a times c. We found this value first. We found the 16. And then from the 16, we just basically built this part of it right here. So then we had the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of the discriminant, all divided by 2 times a. They have it set it up here. And then you have two equations. You have plus and minus. So you break it to the plus. You have negative 2 plus 4 divided by 2. So then you have 2 divided by 2, which is 1. And then you have negative 2 minus 4, negative 2 minus 4 divided by 2. So that's negative 6 divided by 2, which is negative 3. So these are your x-intercepts. And again, picture the parabola where you have the graph crossing at positive 1 and negative 3. So here's an actual visual of one where you have the function x squared plus 2x minus 3. You go to y equals in your calculator. So they factored it right here, which is another method. This is a comparison of all the different methods. So you can put it in the calculator, and the calculator would graph it, and you can see that the x-intercept is at 1, 0, and also at negative 3, 0. And just to kind of confirm in the calculator, we also had a table. Let's see, we have x and we have y, 1. And so in your table, it looks like we would have negative 3, 0 is a point right there. And then another point might be right here. So negative 2, negative 3 is also going to be in the table. And then it looks like you've got another point over here. Well, let's see. Let's go ahead and go 1, 0. So in the table, remember what you're looking for are your zeros. The problem with the table is if you have a fraction or a decimal x value, the table is not going to work for you unless you know how to break it down. So here's another way. If you have the difference of perfect squares, we talked about this one, you would factor this as x plus and minus. You have a plus and the difference of the square roots of both ends. So x minus 2 times x plus 2, and again, you set both ends equal to 0, or both factors equal to 0. You get x equals 2 and x equals negative 2. So the other one was bottoms up. And let's say we have 3x squared plus 13x. Sorry, this is really hard to write with this. Minus 10 equals 0. So we did bottoms up factoring, and we started off with x squared plus 13x. And then we multiplied this with this. So we would have minus 30. Equals 0. All right, then we did factoring like normal. So open, close, equals 0. We know we have x times x. And then this minus means that we have a plus and a minus. And we need factors of 30 that subtract to give you 13. It needs to be a positive 13, so I'm thinking 15 times 2 is 30, and then 15 minus 3 is the positive 13. So 15 times 2. All right, but since we multiplied in the 3, remember we have to divide by 3. So this is going to be 15 divided by 3, and this is going to be the negative 2 divided by 3. So we end up with factors of x plus 5. And then on this one, we said bottoms up, we would put the 3 up here. But listen, we're past the factoring point to where we're actually solving now. So notice that we have x minus 2/3 equals 0. Well, let's just keep it like that. And let's set both these factors equal to 0. Let's do x plus 5 equals 0. So that would give us an x value of negative 5. So x equals negative 5. Some of you guys notice that all we're doing is changing the sign here. So the same thing happens here. This we would do x minus 2/3 equals 0. And when you solve for x, you're going to add 2/3 to both sides. So x ends up equaling positive 2/3. And like I said, some of y'all noticed that we were just changing the signs to get the actual x solutions, the x intercepts. So again, this is just all or several different ways to solve a quadratic equation based off of what we've done. So you have your graph. This will give you decimals. This will give you everything that you need when we use Spidey in the calculator and y equals. The quadratic formula gets you everything that you need, including the imaginary ones. The graph will not give you the imaginary ones, but this one will give you the imaginary ones. Table is only good if you don't have fractions or decimals. This method is good if you have a difference of perfect squares. And this method is good if it is factorable. If it's not factorable, the quadratic formula will always work.